if you haven't gone into counseling to talk through your situation, no matter how amicable, you probably should. Because then you're not working it out with Johnny or Susie in the middle.
Thank you for joining us for the Blended Kingdom Families podcast. This podcast is for blended families, the people who love them, and anyone who just wants to improve their marriage and family relationships.
BKF exists to break the cycle of divorce, equip marriages, and unite blended families with the truth of God's Word. It is our hope that today you will receive biblical guidance and practical resources that will bring unity and peace to create your thriving, healthy home. Let's jump in.
Hey guys, welcome back to the BKF podcast. We're excited you're here with us today. Again, we are joined by the amazing Dr. Cassie Reid. And again, if you haven't already, take an opportunity, like, share, comment. Is there anything else you can do with the podcast?
I don't know.
You can share it.
Tell everyone.
You can make comments. You can leave reviews. If you're a regular listener and you haven't done that yet, man, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive in today with some really cool blended family conversations as it relates to communication. It's got a lot of different tentacles today.
Yeah, it does.
So for those who don't know you, Dr. Reid, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. I'm Dr. Cassie Reid, and I love BKF because I've been married 16 years and I'm part of a blended family. So my stepdaughter is 19, and then I have a 7-year-old also. But I am the director of the Marriage and Family Program at the King's University in Southlake, Texas. And so I just love what I get to do. I also have practice. So I've been practicing for probably 15 years or so, and I love it. I love seeing people, blended families. I like seeing that. So I'm just really passionate about helping people find freedom and the synthesis of the clinical and the spiritual in training therapists, just like you.
Yeah, no, I love it because Dr. Reid, if you guys don't know, she is the director of the program that I am in, my Master's in Marriage and Family Therapy program, and it's my last year.
Yay!
But no, I love that. That's one thing that I remember. One thing that you said, it was right when I started the program was you can't counsel without the ultimate counselor, and that's the Holy Spirit. And so I love getting both, just like the practical and the spiritual side of it, because it's so necessary. And I'm excited because I'm actually going to start using all these skills and things that I've learned. And so super excited about that. But
I'm excited that you'll be out of school for the first time since we've been married. We've been married for almost a decade.
Yeah.
And this woman has been in school the entirety of our marriage.
But she is educated.
Man, I am telling you, on a variety of levels.
You married up.
She's a nurse too. She's a nurse.
I know, but that's such a cool combo.
Yeah.
So we're basically a couch full of counselors here. So
the novice, the expert.
So we'll call it the counselor's couch, whatever you want to call this.
I like it.
But we're gonna really have a good time today because we're gonna dive into some sensitive topics, and I think it's just one of the things that the people who listen to our podcast. I mean, we've talked about so many things. We have hundreds of podcasts out there, and but we really felt the need to dive into some more sensitive topics today. So.
Yeah,
take us away, Vanessa.
Tell them how this one came, because this is cool.
Yeah, so, we have, I guess you could call it a case study for class, and it's basically where, a child in the family, so we'll just say Susie. Susie, the biological mom, is going to take Susie to counseling, but doesn't communicate that necessarily to biological dad, stepmom, and doesn't ask their thoughts or their opinions, and even in the sense that maybe one of them actually does something with counseling, so to speak, that might be their profession, and I can speak to our personal story on that, here in a little bit, but I know that that's something that a lot of blended couples deal with, especially when it comes to like medical decisions, or even like when it comes to the car. Oh, hey, I bought Johnny a car, here it is, by the way, and they weren't consulted or had that communication, and so, I just thought that was something that it would be so good to just talk through, and how we can do that in a healthy way.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people face it too with blended families, because it's like you do have to take your kid to the doctor, or sometimes things come up where you want to go to counseling. And I think being on both sides of it, for me, it's like having my stepdaughter go to counseling and they didn't tell me, which is like, come on.
You're a counselor.
Like, I vet counselors for a living. But it was just one of those things that how, it feels as the parent who's not notified, but then also as a parent who wants your kid to get help but doesn't want a roadblock to stop them from getting the help. Yeah. It's really just a tricky dichotomy. But I think the ultimate goal, everyone needs a therapist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Period. Like everyone. So like people who are against therapy, I'm always like, we're in a really powerful field.
Yeah.
Because we have the ability to identify issues and things that go on inside of people emotionally and just spiritually, like in a different way than. And so I think sometimes that's intimidating, but I think people don't want that. They don't want to be painted as the bad parent, going to counseling. But I think everybody needs a counselor, and the number one ultimate priority needs to be the kiddo. It needs to be Susie, you know, that she's taken care of. She has a safe place to process and someone that you trust and that will do good work with her.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and we're obviously from counselor perspective, we can hone in on this, and I think Vanessa's got a story. I've got a story that we can tell in terms of case study. But really, this is about a lot of different decisions that parent. And I'm going to use the word. The funny part of this is you're probably at some point going to be on both sides of this. Yeah. So you may be the parent who made that decision without consulting, and then you may be the recipient of the decision, and you didn't get consulted. So, and maybe it's a pick your battle type thing. Like, okay, like I didn't get to pick the backpack this year. That's not fun for me.
Life.
That is real life.
That is real life.
Especially for a mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're that mom, you're like, I didn't get to pick, and I didn't get to choose the first day picture and the clothes for the first day picture. And on to maybe the more serious decisions, which is, hey, should we go to counseling? Should we get this car? Should I encourage them not to go to college? Should I encourage them to go to college?
Yeah.
These are all things in blended families, these decision-making steps that you'll take that are like, okay, who's getting their feelings hurt today? Because the truth of it is blended families, in a lot of cases, just don't communicate very well or in a healthy manner. Or, as we've talked about in previous episodes, they just want to win, and so they're seeing an opportunity to win, and they take it without being the person who's looking out for the child who's saying, hey, we know that both parents want to win here, so let's make the best decision.
They just want that tick mark.
Yeah.
Well, that happens. Yeah.
Well, and I know earlier you were talking about like there's different ways to go about this, like in a healthy way. So maybe speak into that a little bit, or.
So a couple of things I would say is first, the healthy communication is just communicate. You may not be able to be like the most eloquent speaker to your ex-spouse. You may not be able to come to them in a loving way, but you can at least present viable communication to your ex-spouse. Maybe that is a text message that says, here's what's going on, just want to consult you on this. And even if your divorce decree gives you that authority, in so many cases, that doesn't mean that you don't have to communicate or shouldn't communicate.
Right.
So make sure that you send a text. If you have a little bit more amicable relationship, be like, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. This is what it's going to happen. Love to get your feedback on that and have a viable communication. In some cases, the decision may have to be made by you anyway, but at least you're extending the olive branch to communicate.
Well,
I want to say one more thing.
Please do. I'm sorry.
The last thing I want to say is the one thing you don't want to do is just tell your child to tell your dad or mom. Be like, hey, by the way, you're going to counseling. Just tell your dad when you see him.
Yeah.
Or tell your mom.
Yeah. We were on the same wavelength, which is so good. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that's exactly what I was going to say is the repercussions of that.
Yeah.
When you choose to not say a thing and let the kiddo, so I've seen this sometimes where a kid will start seeing me in practice and obviously ethically we want to have the divorce decree, or even I've had a parent who I've followed my ethical side and they've told me they've done something and they really haven't, or however that looks. And then you've got, little Susie who's coming to see you, building trust with you, liking coming to see you. Then the other parent finds out, they're irritated and they're like, nope, bye. And so then poor Susie, who they don't even think about that she's already built relationship with you over 2 or 3 sessions, they're going to pull Susie out try to find another therapist. And then Susie has to start all over and try to trust someone else. And like, is this person going to be okay? Or why even bother? Like, I lost my last one, I might lose this one too, you know? And so it's just, I think the repercussions of not communicating are so high, of not at least, because I think it's really, if we have to shoot straight, it's the threat that they might say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't want you to tell me no, so I'm just not going to say it.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh gosh, that risk is there, I think, always. But it's better to have that communication than to have an adverse effect on Susie. What if she never wants to go to therapy ever again?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, no, that's horrible.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah, and then you're doing more harm than you are good. Yeah. No, I love that you mentioned that. Well, and that's where I was going. That's where I was pointing, because I was like, from a therapist's perspective, you know, and ethically, and I love, because I'm just started ethics today with Dr. Cassie Reid, so learning a lot. But
she's a teacher.
She's my teacher. But you know, just from a counselor side, there are steps that we have to take to make sure that we are covered, but also that the other parent knows and is aware, because, and even medically, I mean, you would hate for something to happen to the child, and then the parent's like, I didn't know they were on this medication, or I didn't know this was going on, and there's just that can go south so fast. And so even if you don't have an amicable relationship with your step parent, there's apps where you can put in medical information. You can at least text them, hey, we went to the doctor said this, or send via email. If you cannot have, if you can't even talk to each other. Because I know some people are out there. I know that some people have very high conflict situations where they can't even speak to each other, but at least documenting it some way and making sure that they get it somehow.
Well, and we see these in so many cases of the most serious situations where there's a special needs child, or there's special circumstances that they're seeing behaviorally, especially in younger children. I would say the age is between like 4 and 8, when you see massive behavioral problems, like, hey, this child is getting in trouble at school, and I've seen this as a counselor many times, that people have come to me and said, hey, my son or daughter needs to be on ADHD medication, but don't say it, but mom or dad doesn't agree with this. Whatever the other parent is, they don't agree. So we see this a lot with medication management. The counseling side of it, I think, is very prevalent, though. And I will tell you a story here real quick, and I'll get your feedback, both y'all's feedback on this one. So we had a client come in not too long ago, and a dad had brought their two children in for counseling. The problem is not only did he not tell the ex-spouse, he didn't tell the children they were going to counseling.
Oh no!
Like they didn't know what building they pulled up to. Walk in and they're like, "What is this?"
Oh boy!
I think you need to go to counseling. I mean, well, first of all, that did not go well.
Yeah.
Poor therapist. I know.
Yeah. And if you can imagine, at least in my head, I'm playing this out. And these children were not little; they were teenagers.
Yeah. Oh.
They definitely went home and said,
Yeah.
"Hey, Mom, this is what happened." Can you imagine the dysfunction in that relationship now? And that was over. I would say, it's an important decision, but it wasn't a life or death situation. But where's the trust then?
Yeah.
I mean, it's shattered at that point. You may spend the next 10 years rebuilding that.
Yep.
Because of how sensitive that was. Because in the other parent's mind, it wasn't, hey, the kids needed help. It was the kids needed help recognizing that the other parent was wrong.
Yeah. So, well, Jimmy Evans, he says, trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets. I love that quote from him, because it's so true. It's like, you're building all this time, and then you do that one thing.
Yeah.
One thing, and it takes forever to recover from that. But we see that, and those are the kind of things that we're talking about. So whatever you're relating to as you hear this podcast, you're like, my ex-spouse did X, or I think I have the right to do this without consultation.
Yeah, that's a great story. I mean, just FYI, anything that you do with kids, especially counseling, like, it all does start at home. It starts with you. It starts with the conversations around it. It starts with what it is. My 7-year-old, like I've got her in some counseling, and I told her, I said, okay, this is a secret keeper. This is someone who can help you, and you can tell her anything you want to tell her. And so it's like starts with you building up the process, because then immediately going in, she's able to trust, say what she needs to say, and it saves you money. Because you're not spending 3 sessions just trying to get them on board. You know, they're already on board. Like these poor kids who are like, oh, wow, the next hour of my life, I'm going to bare my soul.
And didn't plan on doing that.
No, they didn't plan. They thought they were running to the store.
All of a sudden they pull up to counseling and you're like, oh, this is not the way that was supposed to be.
That's a good one.
And I want to say too, like, if, you know, maybe you're the parent that like you have done that to your, you know, your ex-spouse, where you've been the parent that has made that decision and didn't consult, you know, or vice versa. You know, I think first, like, I would just, you know, want to speak into that for a minute and just say, you know, if you've done that before, you know, first just recognize that, you know, asking for forgiveness or even repent. I mean, I know I've been there before with my ex-spouse, and I've been the recipient of both. I'll never forget the day that Michael called me or texted me, "Hi, Mom," and I'm like, "I think you have the wrong number." He's like, "No." And he had gotten a phone. Our son had gotten a phone, and
Stay tuned. That's another podcast.
That's another podcast. And I just remember I immediately called his dad, and I was so furious because there was not meaningful consultation with me about that. But I also remember where I was very much in the wrong, where there was a situation with his stepmom where you know, she cleans teeth for a living. She's a dental hygienist. And we pulled, you know, Michael from that situation. It was really out of my pride and frustration. And granted, we were in our custody battle then. But so I've been on both sides of that, where I've been the person that's done it and I've been on the opposite. But what I want to say, I think the best thing that we can do is, regardless of how we feel about the other home or whatever, you know, your relationship with them may be, having that meaningful consult, you know, and just having that respect and honor. And some people are like, yeah, I don't respect or honor my ex-spouse but the Bible calls us to do that. You know, it says, you know, first love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and then love your neighbor. And our ex-spouses, they're our neighbors. You know, those step parents, the biological parents, they're our neighbors. And so I think just having that honor and respect for them to say, you know what, I may not like you, I may not agree with you, but this is what's going on, and I want to let you know, or I would, you know, at least like to get your input on this.
You know what?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
You know, one of the most contentious topics today is with decision making is vaccinations. COVID vaccinations. Huge contention. To be vaccinated because younger children, things like that. And I know families deal with that. I know that they, you know, they look at this and they go, no, I'm this way. And that is huge separation of ideals. So many houses are a house divided on that. And so I just wanted to point that out as, hey, take that topic, roll it into everything we've been talking about today.
Right. And
then you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, in that exchange, I think even what you're describing, neither party feels good. It's like neither party feels peace, and is it? You know, so when you went in and got the dental records and were saying like, okay, I'm pulling him from this practice, like you weren't at your finest.
No,
you know, like you were.
Oh my gosh.
No offense, but like it wasn't your finest hour, nor was it either when they went and got him the phone. And you didn't know. Like either thing is just not. It doesn't matter what side. Because I think there's the lie sometimes that if I'm the one in control and if I'm the one choosing it, that I feel better. But it's like, no, you actually don't, because there's stuff stirring in you that you're trying to pull on that maybe you're not even aware of sometimes.
Well, and it says if I'm taking the control out of God's hand over the situation, I'm putting it in mine, like I'm making God of that area in my life and in that relationship. And so, you know, I think a lot of this just goes back to like just surrendering and letting the Holy Spirit lead and trusting God in the process and what it is, you know, and doing what we're called to do, what the Bible tells us to do, regardless of what they do or say. You know, we on our part, we can own it and just do what we're called to do. And I think in that obedience to what His Word says, God's going to honor that obedience, and we're going to be blessed through that. And so, you know, I know some people are like, easier said than done. I know. We've been there. And like Dr. Reid said, like, I look back on some things and I'm like, gosh, Vanessa, you're just the ugliness of my heart. You know, and I think that's why it's so important as biological parents and step parents, and just in our faith walk with the Lord every day, checking the posture of our heart and what that looks like and the character of it.
So if you've been in this situation, I'm just going to kind of roll out a few steps for you. And whichever side of the fence you're on, I think we've clarified that you're going to be on both. You're going to be the recipient of that, and you're going to be the giver of that. So you're going to make decisions without consultation, and other decisions are going to be made without your consultation. So what do you do? So where do you start? I would say start with something small and start moving in a direction of positive, what I'm going to call positive consultation. So maybe it's the small thing. It's like, hey, listen, we're registering for classes next year and he has some options or she has some options.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
Yep. Yeah.
They may not care. They may not have a clue in the world what you're talking about. They may not care, but you've asked. The next time, it may be something a little bit bigger. So just start kind of making some, if the kids are younger, here's a great step. Hey, Johnny's birthday's coming up. Maybe we should refer all the time to just Johnny. Johnny and Susie.
Just
Johnny and Susie. I think it's going to become universal for this is our kid's name. But hey, Johnny's got a third birthday coming up or a fourth birthday coming up, and he says he wants main event, but I'm kind of thinking this. What are your thoughts on this? Mm-hmm. The birthday situation is huge.
It's real. Yeah. That struggle's
I'm telling you, if you're a mom out there, I mean, I'm just speaking to you. If you don't have control over where the birthday is, there's an issue. So
it's true.
Maybe
it is.
I'm just saying it's true. So, having that consultation, hey, there's a birthday coming up. What do you think? What should we do? It's a tiny, tiny decision. Yeah. But you've at least asked for a consult. You've asked for consultation. You've asked for their advice. You've asked for them to pour into this decision. String together a season of those. A couple of seasons of those.
Wow.
And then when it comes to the harder decisions, first of all, it's going to be easier for you to ask.
Yeah.
You're going to have more respect for their answer. And it's the way you're supposed to co-parent.
Right. Mm-hmm.
This is not meant to be a single sport. You've got to have both people to co-parent. Yeah, it's a doubles. They call it co-parenting for a reason.
Yeah. Well, and Dr. Reid, I would love for you to just speak into that and give any encouragement, from your heart, like anyone that's in this situation.
No, I know it's tough, and I think I would just say to you, if keeping your Johnny or Susie's thing first and foremost of your mind, I think that's the thing, their well-being. I think turning up your communication dial never hurts. It never hurts. And I also think you said something so powerful that I want to just capitalize on. It's like health begets health.
100%.
So it's like if you haven't gone into counseling to talk through your situation, no matter how amicable, you probably should. Because then you're not working it out with Johnny or Susie in the middle. Yeah. You're able to process that. They're able to have a place to process. Everybody's able to process it in a healthy way. Now, that's not guaranteed. You can't promise that everybody's it's all going to be hunky-dory. Yeah. But I think it's as long as you're leaning into doing the best that you can do.
Absolutely.
That's all you can do. And you have to trust that the seeds you plant, they will yield.
Yes.
Yeah. They will yield fruit. And it may not be right this moment, but you will see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's good. I love that. Well, Dr. Reid, I am excited because you have a podcast that's coming out, which I feel like has been long overdue.
Very long overdue.
I'm like, when is Dr. Reid going to come out with her own podcast? But can you tell us more about that and where everyone can find you, find that?
Anywhere you listen to podcasts, you'll see. But it's called The Diary of a Therapist.
Love it.
So I just
wait. The Diary of a Therapist. How cool are these stories going to be?
Here's how I came to this. Well, we're protecting everyone that we talk about, but I have a good friend and we both practice, and so we just started staffing cases, and we kind of are wild and funny and just opinionated, and we both love the Lord, and we were just like, we should really record this. So we decided to do that. So we're recording. It's kind of works in 4 parts. So the first week is kind of a teaching time, or where you learn a little bit. And then we bring in a guest that's kind of an expert. Then we do a current event. And then the last week of the month, you'll be able to get question and answer. So awesome. Our first, it launches February 1st. And it will be, our first topic is boundaries. So
that's good.
Yeah, so it's really good. And I think it's cool because all of us are passionate about the church and counseling and all of that and how that kind of stirs together. So there's a lot of undertones of that you'll hear. And it's just fun. I just feel like it also will be something that will offer CEUs for licensed therapists.
Yeah. That is awesome.
So that they will be able to listen, hopefully the first that'll be able to listen and gain CEUs through the podcast. So, yeah.
Sounds like a winner right there.
I know. Yeah. And I love the name. That's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll see. It's our first intro episode was wild, just because we're just goofing and having fun, and that's my whole goal. Is that's a fun time. Just like this, it's fun, to listen to something and learn, but it's fun. It doesn't have to be dry.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's good.
Diary of a Therapist.
Yeah.
You should check it out
Stay
on
tuned.
all of your podcast platforms.
Yes.
It's going to be phenomenal.
Like, subscribe. No.
Yeah, like, subscribe. You better go like and subscribe to that. That's going to be so
You
cool.
first have to like BKF though. First go in there and like BKF, subscribe. That's so good.
funny. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we just wish you the best on that
I
and wish
appreciate
all
it.
the
I'm
blessings
excited
on
for you.
that.
I
And
know.
y'all might be guests, so stay tuned for that.
Let's
They-
go. It'll be fun.
My therapist coming on the that's it.
Yeah.
Just therapy. All therapy.
Yeah.
There we go.
Love it. Love it.
Well, guys, thanks so much for joining in today. It really has been a lot of fun with Dr. Reid, and we just hope that you really enjoyed this. We hope that it's poured into your life. Again, if you haven't taken an opportunity, like, share, comment. We'd love to hear from you. Love to get your feedback on this episode. If you can, drop us a comment. We'd love to get back to you on that. So you guys take care. Have a great day.
Be blessed in all that you do.
Hey guys, so glad you were here with us today, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
And you can find more resources from Blended Kingdom Families at blendedkingdomfamilies.com. Join us again next time as we hang out with more amazing podcast guests. And remember, nothing will be impossible with God.